3, and we're going to be studying about program planning. Now, it could sound boring, it could sound canned, and we're certainly not trying to encourage you to fit a particular published program or a particular program from another church into your own, because I pray you've heard us say that each women's ministry is going to be unique, because you're unique, your church is unique, your women are unique, and so it will look a little different. But what we want to do instead is focus on how are you organizing the women's ministry at your church. Now, some of you are the women's ministry director at your church. Maybe you give leadership to all of the women's ministry. Others of you are involved in one particular area of the women's program, and maybe you're in charge of the Bible study or teach a Bible study group. Some of you may organize the special events. But the reality is life must be planned and ministries must be planned. And so as we think about the many different things that your church is doing for the women, how are you organizing that? How are you not only organizing it, but how are you systematically planning it? Not only so that you're making sure all needs are being met and that you're involving women of all ages and stages of life, but so that you'll be able to make sure you're not missing something and that you're not like leaving out something that's very important. So we must plan and program. Now, some people joke here at the seminary that they don't know what they're doing in 5 years, because sometimes we have to plan our schedule of our women's ministry and our student wives classes years in advance. Our sweet friend, Chris Adams, who is the women's ministry consultant at Lifeway Christian Resources, has been for many years and is transitioning now into retirement. She often laughs because she has to plan her schedule like 5 and 6 years out. Well, sometimes we're in organizations or churches where calendars have to be planned out a long time in advance. I did learn a very practical lesson early in ministry. Long-range planning comes in handy because in a practical way, whoever gets the date on the calendar first wins. So in other words, if you're planning ahead and you're planning things for your women, many times you can get that on the church calendar, and that guarantees that you can do what you're planning, what the women of your church look forward to. Now, again, calendars are one of the most complicated things in our personal lives. It's very complicated with a church or an organization, and sometimes calendar dates need to change. But the reality is the more planning that we can do, not only do we ensure properly that we get to do what we need to do when we need to do it, but it is a wonderful way of communicating. Many times the calendar is what reflects what are the other ministries in our church doing? What are the other divisions or departments in our organization doing? So there's a benefit from it. Now, when I think of planning, for myself personally, I think about planning based on priorities, and I do long-range planning and I do short-term planning. So something that is long-range are your big picture goals. Like, what is your vision statement? What are your major areas that you would like to involve in your women's ministry? So this course would be a great time for you to evaluate what is your mission statement of your women's ministry, maybe in light of what is the mission statement for your church, and what would be some of the areas that you want to make sure you include every single year. So that would be your long-range planning. And then you want to have your short-term planning, which is really your more specific goals that are measurable and specific that will help you to accomplish those long-range plans. So as you plan, think big picture and then think small picture. Think big picture and then think details. And let me just tell you, if you do not have a copy of, for instance, the Lifeway Christian Resources Women's Catalog, I find those to be very helpful, because in addition to including all of their printed resources and training events, most of the time in the back you will see all kinds of charts and suggestions of how you can plan and schedule different Bible studies. And so it gives you an idea, again, of a balanced ministry, but then how do you do some specific training? So if you're not sure where to start with our textbook, Women Reaching Women is a primary one, and then our textbook by Sharon James on designing effective women's ministries. Get some ideas and then begin to establish your plans. And as you do, communicate that effectively with your team, your women's team, and be sure to keep in touch with your church staff, letting them know not only what is God leading you to do, but also give them periodic reports to know how God is blessing you and how you together, using your gifts and abilities under the leadership of the Holy Spirit, are helping to accomplish some of these goals. So get busy planning, girls, and I'll see you next week. God bless.